my name's Keith. I'm from the Orthopaedic Hospital Oswestry, work at a unit called ORLAU. I'm here today at Ricoh UK Products Limited, home of Ricoh 3D, to officially talk about the launch of an Ankle CCD Lever Kit. So this is something that we've designed up at the Orthopaedic Hospital, but Ricoh are now making this commercially available. We're pleased to announce that it's gone live on the website, so you can now go ahead and buy these kits of parts. So as an orthotist, prosthetist, physio, any clinician can come on our course, can be trained how to use these, and you can apply them into a simple shell to make a contracture management device. So once you've got your kits of parts from Ricoh that you're going to apply to the shell, this is the equipment that you're going to need. So you're going to need some safety goggles for when you do your drilling. You're going to need a range of M5 bolts, different lengths, just so that you can fit them into your shell. You'll need an Allen key to go with those M5 bolts. You'll need a countersink drill bit, a 5.5mm drill bit, 2 spanners, 10mm and 8mm to hold on to the bosses. You'll need some sort of marking pen to mark the shell. You'll need a center punch tool to start your drill holes, some Loctite 222. You're going to need a goniometer. I prefer the locking goniometer, that's a bit easier for me to lock at the right angle and use. You're going to need a pistol drill of some description. Some information about your patient. So here what we're hoping to see is the contracture angle. That's the minimum information that you need. You might want to put the patient weight on there. And then within your kit you've got this marking out jig. So this is used to line up the 3 holes that you're going to drill on your shell, and that's what gets you started. So that's all the kit you'll need in your workshop. So this is our kit of parts that you'll be buying from Ricoh. So when you open up your box, you will find a quick reference guide which talks about some safety features. You'll also find a QR code to the instructions online that you can go and view. Here you will see a detachable template, so we can take that from the box and we'll use that as part of our setup. And then inside you'll see a kit of parts that consists of 2 levers, 2 gas springs, and enough of the components to be able to mount that onto a single or a pair of ankle shells. So this is how we would go about installing the kit of parts. So lay things out on the bench. The first thing to put together would be the ankle boss onto the end of the gas spring. So we're just screwing that in place by hand, and then take our 8mm and 10mm spanners and just nip that up nice and tight. So that's your gas spring with the lower boss attached to it. Then we will put the rod end on, so that goes onto the top. This can be just finger tight, it doesn't need any spanners. Once that's in situ, then the lever can be put on the top. So now you've got to engage the rod end with the lever. So you can see there's a hole. Make sure that's aligned up. Now we can put the spring clip on. So the spring clip goes through the rod end and fastens in. Now what we must make sure we do is put the spring clip to the top of the lever, not onto the body of the rod end as you might expect. Clip that into place. That's now all in situ. Take your shoulder bolt, insert it into the top of the lever, and then what I like to do is insert it on the 3rd hole down. So put it into the 3rd hole down. Again, finger tight at this stage. You can take your Allen key if you want to. You will be taking this back off before you finish it, and you'll glue that in place with some Loctite. So that's just nipped up tight. So there we have the finished kit. You've got some bits left over, which are our washers. They're used to align all this on the device, but that is essentially how you attach everything out of the box. Okay, so this is how we mark up the shell. So it's worth pointing out that the shell doesn't come with the kit of parts. You would make this yourself in-house or get your orthotic manufacturer to do that for you. The kit itself comes with a cardboard marking out jig, so that would tear off the box, and that gives you the 3 drilling positions that you need to set this up properly. We have a goniometer, so any kind of goniometer is fine. Our orthotists tend to use these. We use these ones in the workshop. But essentially what you'll do with your goniometer is take your contracture point. So let's say, for example, our patient today has a 90-degree contracture. I'm going to lock my goniometer at 90 degrees. And then I'm going to align that with my shell. And then once it's aligned, I'm going to make sure that that shell stays in that position. I don't want the shell to move, so I'm going to hold it in position. That's not always an easy thing to do, but it's an important thing to do. So that's got my shell set. Now what I'm going to do is carefully move that, and what I'm looking for here is the position that's on the apex of this curve. So I want to mark a slot across right on the top of that curve. I don't want to mark it over to the sides, it needs to be right in the middle. So I'm going to initially put a line down the center of our little strengthening rib, and then I'm going to turn it to the side and go, right, that looks like the apex to me. So there's my cross. So making sure not to move that again. I'm going to take my marking jig, I'm going to hang this off the end of the bench, and I'm going to position this heel point in place with my cross. Now I can easily see where my other two crosses need to be. And that's how we use our jig. So 3 holes marked out, equispaced as they should be, which will allow you to mount the components on properly. So once you've used your marking out jig and you've got your 3 holes, now it's time to drill them. So you can first use a center punch just to get you started. Punch in the middle of your marks. Then you can use a 5.5mm drill bit and just drill straight through. Okay, that's our 3 holes. So now we can countersink the underside so that we can put some countersink bolts through. So turning your shell upside down, simply countersink these roughly 3mm deep. And there we have the finished shell. So 3 holes ready to receive the kit of parts with countersinks on the inside. Okay, so now we're going to fit the kit of parts to the shell. We've got our 3 holes drilled. Here we have our kit. What I'm going to do first of all is take the bottom boss off. That just makes it slightly easier to attach on the heel. We have a selection of M5 countersink bolts here. You choose one that you think is roughly the right length. This I think is a 12mm one. So that now protrudes through the heel. That allows me to fasten this on. So I'm going to do that finger tight for the time being. So with your heel boss attached, you can attach that back to your gas spring. Just clip that in place. And now you're going to fasten the top bracket onto the top part of the shell. So take in a smallish M5 countersink. This one's a 10mm. Engage that and just nip it up nice and loose. Doesn't need to be tight at this stage. Now we're trying to take out how much of this play at the bottom part of the bracket we need to worry about. So that's where the washers come in. So I'm going to use 1 washer. I'm going to take another smallish M5 bolt. And I'm going to tighten both of those 2 up. So now what we can see is that the gas spring and the lever are nice and parallel. There's a little bit of play in there, that's fine, but that washer has allowed me to tailor those so that they're parallel to each other. That's really what you're trying to do. You're not trying to get the gas spring or the lever too high or too low. You want them nice and parallel with each other. Okay. Here we can see with the gas spring compressed how much the gas spring has risen in relation to the lever. So now we're no longer parallel like we were there, we've come up. So this is the point of putting the right size washer in there so that we don't get too much movement here. When it does move up the gas spring, it generates lots of force on the componentry here. So if we get that washer wrong, we're going to add extra pressure in here and extra stress on those components than we want to. So it's important to set it up so that it's parallel like that. Try and keep them like they are. The 3 washers are needed because of the different shapes in the shell. This is quite a simple shell, but you can still, even that needs 1 washer. It's not uncommon that we do use all 3 washers. Now you can take the shoulder screw off again, Loctite in place once you're happy with it. So here we have the finished kit of parts on our shell. So what you'll find is the lever opens it into a donning position and then closes into a stretching position. With the patient's limb in there, the gas spring will activate and it will stretch them. We've got our safety sticker in place, which is close to where the possible finger trap might be. So that's important to tell the patient not to get their fingers up there. That's what this hook's for. Ideally, they'll hold it down here, but just make sure they keep their fingers out of the way. Please make sure that the patient uses the user guide. There's a link to that on the website. You can print it off. It's a single page document. Just shows them how to use it, how to look after it. And that's the finished product.